Welcome to State of Mind Talks, the podcast series from the mental health and fitness charity State of Mind Sport. This series focuses on a demanding profession, which at the very top level combines elite fitness, instant decision-making, immense knowledge, composure, management, and a huge amount of mental toughness. I'm George Riley, and this is State of Mind Talks, the referees. Our first guest is one of the sport's top match officials, most recently the man in charge of the World Club Challenge, a regular feature at Grand Finals, Challenge Cup Finals and Internationals too, Liam Moore. Liam, great to see you. Thanks for coming on for a chat. First of all, how are you doing?
I'm great, thanks George, and thank you for having me. Looking forward to chatting through what the tribes and tribulations of being a referee.
Well, it's great to have the opportunity to do so. We chat a lot, very little on record, because that's the way your job is. You go out there, you do your job, whether you do it well or badly, you get pelters, and then you go away and no one hears from you. So I think actually it's nice to have the platform to hear your side of it. And, you know, we're a month or so into the season. So how, from your point of view, has that first month or so been?
Yeah, it was always going to be, more since I've been a referee this year, incurred more changes than the sport has ever seen in my lifetime, certainly in my lifetime as a referee. So that presents challenges not only for players and clubs, but for referees as well. We have to adapt to new rule changes and new interpretations in the ruck, just like the players do. So there's a lot of change, but actually, I think we've already seen from the early rounds how quickly, certainly in the ruck interpretations, the playing the ball, how quickly clubs and players and referees have adapted to that. So yeah, there's always going to be challenges at the start of this season, but actually, I think we've done pretty well in terms of the sport collectively adapting to them changes.
Do you feel, just on that, on the law changes, we won't get bogged down in that because we have this all the time with the game evolving, but as referees, do you feel a little bit like the messenger and you're getting shot as the messenger because you're being given these new guidelines all the time, you're implementing them, and then you're the one taking the flak for it?
Yeah, and I think that's right. And ultimately, we're the people in the middle who are the bad cops, so to speak, who get the cards out or have to make tough decisions, difficult decisions. So yeah, we're very much the messages and all of that. But it's important. We have a role to play. Referees don't go away in the off season and suddenly come back and make a load of rules up and how they want the game to look like, etc. It's a deep dive into involvement from stakeholders, whether that be coaches, whether that be players, whether that be CEOs, fans. Everybody shape the game how they want it to look, and then it's our job to enforce that when the season starts. So yeah. Sometimes it can feel like you're the bad cop, so to speak. But yeah, I think you as a referee that you're always going to get that as part of the job.
We'll come on to the skills of refereeing, and I want to get an understanding just of how hard your job is. We'll do that in a sec. Just one more on the start of the season. Obviously, the big one for you was the World Club Challenge, and what an opportunity, what a showcase, and what a lot of drama followed it as well. So how, a couple of weeks or so after that, how are you feeling about everything?
Absolutely, I think games like that, certainly, and I put Grand Finals and Challenge Cup Finals into the mix with that as well. They're so big, the games, not only for the clubs but for the sport as a whole. BBC 2, 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, massive occasion for the sport, and actually for the players and us as officials. Certainly World Club Challenges especially, they don't come around every year. The first one in this country since 2020. So massive opportunity for me and the officials to get that appointment, and one that I was truly honoured to get, and one when in 20 years' time when I'm no longer refereeing, I'm sure it'll be a big game that I'll look back on fondly. But yeah, with them games come different challenges, but absolutely, massive adrenaline rush to get them kind of appointments and be in the middle of what are fantastic occasions, but also fantastic games as well.
How do you escape the noise after it then? Because there was a lot of noise after that because of the nature of the decisions that you had to make. Well, you and your team had to make.
Yeah, I think it's an experience point that I think that's when you get, certainly when I first was in Super League and making my debut, I struggle more with that in terms of being able to just distance yourself. Now I have a very, very small circle of people around me that I go and speak to and I trust, whether that be my wife, whether that be friends, whether that be some mentors who I've always spoken to coming through the journey. I think you've got to be pretty mentally strong to shut noise out, whether that may be. It's very rare that people are going to be, actually congratulate referees, etc., praise referees. So don't go looking for that. I just try and keep away from the noise. And actually, the people who review the games or are in the match officials department, it's their opinion that really does matter. So yeah, you've just got to part the noise, but that comes with experience and being around the block a little bit in terms of understanding, switch off and go again.
Yeah, we'll come back to that more. I wonder how you're able to do it. Is it just a case of turning your phone off for a bit, not going on social media? I mean, I was dreadful for it when my career was flying and I was on, doing live TV and that kind of stuff. I'd go in the pub after I come off air and I'd go through my Twitter. I'd read every single comment that was sent to me. And I look back and I don't know why I did it, because no one goes online to say, well done. They just go online to have a pop. And I made sure I read it all. And looking back, I don't really know why I did that, whether that was, I don't know, insecurity in me, or did I want to know who my enemies were, or I don't know. Is it better just to ignore it, or can we? Or I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, it's the temptation, isn't it, George? It's the temptation of you on the phone and you begin a message, etc. Some of your friends maybe send you things that are being said, etc. But like I said, when I was younger, I think I wanted to know what people thought of me. I was much more, what are people saying online? What is what is the world of Twitter saying? Well, now I think when you appreciate that actually it is what it is, and just move on from that. I don't go looking for it now. There'll be some, inevitably, you will end up with hearing some noise, etc. That is just inevitable in the world of social media. But yeah, I don't go looking for it. Sometimes you'll get messages sent from you. We had Marcus Griffiths last year who had received some terrible messages, and I think we all receive that to some degree, but certainly thankfully not to that extent usually. But yeah, you've got to try and distance yourself from that, and just remember, it's people behind keyboards who you've never met before, and who actually you put in a lot of thought and impact on their words. So I just try to keep a distance from it, and actually be strong-minded enough to just ignore that and know that focus on the job that you've got to do, which a lot of times isn't always easy, and you have got to make difficult decisions that won't please a lot of people. You've got to have the courage of your conviction to really get on with that and accept that. And once you accept it, I think you become a better referee and a better person as well, probably.
Yeah, that's a really good answer, and I couldn't agree more. Should we focus on the job? I said at the top, it's a complex mix of skills and needed to be a top ref, which I think a lot of people don't understand, certainly when they're sitting behind the computer having a pop at people. How fit you have to be. You're effectively a professional sportsman yourself. All that decision making is done while you're exercising, which anyone who's ever gone out for a run of any distance knows how hard that is to do, to be going about your decision making while you're going full pelt. The concentration, like the man management, the way you're talking to players, the having eyes in the back of your head, the trusting in your colleagues, because you're not going to be able to see everything yourself. I mentioned the mental fitness as well as the physical fitness, the concentration. Have I covered everything there? Have I forgotten some stuff?
I think that's a good summary, actually. I think there's a lot in there, isn't there? When, especially while the game's going 100 miles an hour, to combine all them things and really try to perform at that elite level. There is a lot going on. A lot of it does become, it's muscle memory, a lot of it now, in terms of, making decisions, trusting your team. A lot of them things we do unconsciously. Certainly probably starting off with the first one you mentioned, in terms of, the fitness levels you need to get to now. The game is getting quicker constantly. The game is constantly getting quicker. Players are getting quicker. For us guys in the full-time group, we're training as hard as what I've been in the full-time group at the moment, in terms of the level of volume that we're putting in. Some guys will have 2 on-field roles a week as a referee and touch judge. It's a heavy demand. So, but it's getting into them positions when the speedsters we've got now in Super League, how quick some of them guys are. when they break in the field, you've got to get there to make a decision.
Well, we saw that with Kendall, didn't we? He's quicker than most of them.
Exactly, yeah. Chris is like lightning in terms of sprinting, and with some other quick ones in the group, Aaron Moore, Jack Smith, that some of the fittest people you meet. So, but having them in the group makes us all fitter. It rises standards, in my opinion. So we've all got to be at that level. So it's only good. It's only good. I think there's a misconception I think about refereeing is that you turn up on a Friday night or a Saturday afternoon, whatever it may be, take your bag out your boot, and you go and referee the game, and there's absolutely no preparation to it. You're training and previewing all week to prepare for your game at the weekend, and then the review process after that it's all designed to that 80 minutes at a weekend, and really so you can perform at your best level and equally, so that game can be played in the right way at the right speed.
So are there, and I'm sure there are, specifics? Do you have to be able to run a certain length in a certain time? What are your guidelines in terms of how fit you have to be?
Yeah, it's evolved over the last few years. So previously we've done the yo-yo test for the last few years. So some of the lads have got some really top scores in that. We now do the VO2 max testing at Liverpool John Moore. So we do that a couple of times a year. So you're very much you gauged on where you're at because they've got your base score from doing it previously. So it's pretty intense, to be honest. It's the testing days because you've got to hit the standard to be considered for the Super League matches. So yeah, just like players, we're regularly tested to know that we're ready to perform at that level.
When you got into refereeing, did you have an idea of what it might be like? And if you did, how does that compare to what you found it to be like that you've just explained?
Yeah, probably a little bit strange in some ways that when I started refereeing, I was at school, I was carrying a lot of weight. I think I was like 15 stone when I first started refereeing, when I was just ready for leaving school. So actually it was refereeing, I lost a lot of weight in a couple of years, like over 2 stone to be a referee, because I knew the weight I was at, I was never going to get any higher than community level, maybe under 13s, under 14s at that point. So I knew I needed to get fitter to be able to almost develop really as an official. So, that was one of the motivations for me to really get fit and lose weight. I was at Robin Park regularly with Aileen Mills, who was actually one of the school teachers who running around the track and losing weight but getting fitter as well. So actually, come couple of years later, probably fitness was one of my biggest strengths. So it turned a weakness really into a real positive. But unless you're fit enough to keep up with players at a certain level, you have got a very much a glass ceiling. So fitness is it's not everything. It's definitely certainly not everything, but it's key to progression within officiating.
So was it? I mean, a lot of people can't understand why anyone would want to be a referee. Certainly, looking at the abuse you guys get. But yours, so was it more a desire to get a way to get fit rather than I want to be a referee? And if so, why did you not just play sport?
Yeah, I played at school. To be honest, I was bang average as a player. I certainly was never going to. I was never going to make it as a player within rugby league. I played, I was okay, but I was never going to have a career in Super League as a player. That's for sure. As some of the lads in training, when we play 5-a-side now and touch rugby, will testify to that. But I love rugby league, and actually, I just thought I want to try and stay involved, if I'm honest. But it's an extra bit of pocket money while some of my friends were working different places, long hours. And I thought I can earn a bit of money doing this on a Sunday morning. And it kind of progressed from there, really. I had no ambitions at all of ever being a referee. I never did my course or started refereeing thinking, you know what, I'm going to be, this is my full-time job. At that point, my plan was to be a solicitor, go down the legal route. I was doing a law degree, so it all kind of transpired really from firstly a love of rugby league and actually doing refereeing and thinking, no, I actually quite like this. I enjoy it. And that transpired to be, the career I'm in now where, I'm in the fantastic position where I work in rugby league and it's my full-time job. For someone who had very little skill as a player, to be in the middle of 26 blokes, in some of the biggest games in rugby league, I'm quite honoured to say I'm in the middle of some of that.
I was going to ask you then, what, you mentioned, oh, I enjoy this. What element, what's the element that you do enjoy? Because we focus a lot on the bad stuff. So tell me what the good stuff is. What do you get out of it?
I think it's the adrenaline. It's the buzz before a big game when you're walking out to a full crowd and you're in the middle making big decisions. It's the adrenaline rush. It's addictive. It's the making decisions, working with players, managing your way through a game, the challenges that presents with, if players are coming together and you've got to potentially, where you've got to manage your way through a difficult moment. It's the flashpoints in the game. And actually, it's in the middle of seeing some great tries. I'm seeing the classic games of where the big hits you see up close. It's absolutely the best. And people use the cliche, it's the best seat in house. It really is. As we've already touched on, I'm sure we will touch on. There's challenges with that as well, and it can be lonely sometimes when you've got to make a big decision. Then it's not very popular. But actually, the bit I love is it's the adrenaline. It's the blood that pumps through your body when you run out a massive game on a Good Friday, on a grand final, a Challenge Cup final. That's what keeps me coming back.
I mentioned the mental fitness, the resilience you need. How do you go about building that? We all learn through our challenges in life that, the best way of building resilience is by going through adversity. But I just wonder, as a referee, can you be naturally a resilient person, or is that something that comes with experience?
I think it does come with experience. I think that's definitely one. But I think you've got to have good coping mechanisms as well along the way. Being a referee, one thing you were guaranteed to face is adversity. There's a lot of adversity along the way. There's a lot of disappointments. There's a lot of errors you'll make naturally along the way, and there's difficult conversations and difficult moments that come from that. But actually, if you can prepare yourself in a way that you're stable with your home life, you've got the people around you that give you that unconditional support. Whether that now I've touched on it, is my wife. I come home, good game or bad game, there's the stability there that I know I've got the right people around me. I think talking as well is something that, within the full-time group, there's 9 of us now, and all of us at some point this season and last season and next season will go through difficult moments where, through sometimes no fault of ours necessarily, will be headline news. Or people will be talking about us. So it's sharing them experiences. And one thing I'm keen on now is we've got some of the younger guys developing in the group, passing some of that experience on and being a listening ear to people to talk to. Of actually, I've been through this. I'm possibly going to go through it again. This is how I dealt with it. If you need to talk to somebody, and talk to me. You've got to have people around you that you trust, and that's really important for referees because we are on the front line of it. It's a mentally demanding job, but one that can be very rewarding as well.
Yeah, I mean, the talking is the key component of any aspect of mental health, really, the power of opening up, and especially when you're in the spotlight like you guys are. Is it phone calls? I'm sure you've got a WhatsApp group. How do you go about that? And I can't imagine anything more empathetic than a WhatsApp group of referees, because you will have everyone in that group. Well, yeah, all right, it's you this week. I've been there. Let's talk.
Yeah, exactly that. And that's exactly that. I think sometimes it's just checking in. It's just whether it's just a text message, how are you doing? Do you want to go for a coffee? It's just because there's no one who can understand that more than a group of referees. I'm fortunate position that, some of my brothers obviously are referee in the full-time group. Jack Smith's one of my closest friends outside of being a referee as well. So, we've got a close knit of people who not only are you, do you work with as colleagues, I genuinely do see them as some of my closest friends as well. So that's a fortunate position that we're in. But like I said, I know it's people are more essentially, use the expression, you've got to have a tough skin to be a referee, which is absolutely right. But I think the talking part of it is the key. Don't bottle up your feelings. Don't say everything's okay if it's not. Just share with people how you feel. And actually, referees are human as well. They're not emotionless creatures who go out on a field. Everyone everyone has them feelings and has them doubts sometimes. So over my career, there's been moments where I've spoken to people, and experience plays a big part in it, as I've said, but the talking for me is absolutely critical.
What's been your worst period of adversity so far as a ref? What's been your toughest moment?
I think it was possibly the year after I just joined the full-time group. I had a good year in 2017 and 2018, and there was a point in 2019 where I just couldn't seem to get momentum in terms of my referee, and I wasn't performing particularly well. And it was at that point where, and I was put on big games and I got decisions wrong, and that knocks your confidence at that point. I think in the early years that was something that I always remember thinking that it was difficult. Every game just felt difficult. Where now, experience is, as I've touched on a lot, is brilliant. But I think certainly in the early 2019, I would say that I just wasn't necessarily one particular game or moment. It was more a run of disabled players and teams with form and momentum. It's the same with referees. If you're refereeing with confidence and refereeing great, then there's nothing better in the world. But equally, sometimes if you're not particularly refereeing well, it can be really difficult to go out performing week on week. So yeah, I think every single referee will tell you no one has a perfect game across the season. Nobody goes a full season without making errors or having a bad week here and there, just like a team won't. So, but the thing with refereeing, there's a lot more talk about a referee making a decision than potentially a player dropping a ball or a team losing a game, etc. So, but as we've touched on, that's the nature of the job.
Yeah, why is that? Is that just because you're the easy target? Because we're a passionate bunch, and if one of our players has made a mistake, it's a lot easier actually criticising you than them, because you're not going to come back at them.
Yeah, and it's the voiceless, so to speak, as well, isn't it? It's the I don't know we're talking now in this podcast, but referees aren't going to come out in the media or in a press conference and defend themselves. There is no right of reply as a referee. It's very much you go home and you do the game while noise is brewing or potentially comments.
Would you like there to be? Like, should there be? Would you rather it be like that, or are you happy just being silent?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think there's a place for referees coming out after a game to answer questions. I don't think that's right, because a lot of things are said in heat of the moment. A lot of things are need to be dissected in terms of a review. So for a referee to come straight out after a game to either explain a decision or explain or answer questions, for me, it wouldn't be appropriate, neither for the referee and actually for the game itself. I don't think anyone would really want that. Certainly as referees, I wouldn't.
Yeah, that brings me perfectly onto the role of the media, which effectively is social media now, the way the industry's gone, and how responsible they are or aren't. I get really wound up when I see newspapers, etc., post on their social media a freeze frame or a replay of a decision like they did in the World Cup Challenge with you. Was this the right call? What do you make of this? Because all that does, I mean, it's great for them because it gets them interactions, which is the clickbait nature of the industry now. But all it does is incite a pile onto the referees. What do you think of this? No one's going to say, yeah, well done, Liam. It's like, bang, bang, this. And they still do it because it works for whatever publication, because they get all the interactions. They don't have to deal with all the backlash that you guys do.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's just referees with that, the clickbait nature. It's something that frustrates me personally in terms of when you see headlines like that. I've read things in the past where they've taken a little comment from a coach in a interview after the match and turned that into this big sensational story. As you've already touched on, for simply for the clicks. And equally, we're referees, they made a decision. I've seen headlines from last year from publications of Liam Moore slams players in a game. It sounds a very sensationalised headline, when actually it was a comment speaking to two captains about control and discipline. But that being then interpreted into that, as you say, it gets the click. It sounds interesting. The headline sounds interesting, doesn't it? So people click on it, and that's how they get the clicks. But yeah, I think that's very frustrating as a referee and as a fan of the game as well. Above all else, I'm a rugby league fan, and to see things like that for me is no good for anybody. No good for anybody.
Abuse versus accountability. This is an argument when I find myself, which I do more often than not, online defending referees. It's all like, oh, should we just let bad decisions go then? There's no accountability, therefore abuse is fine. It's like people can't understand. It's not one or the other. Referees are accountable behind closed doors, as you illustrated at the top. That's where it goes on. That doesn't have to be played out in front of everyone's eyes on social media yet. The perceived lack of accountability allows people to think, well, it's fair game. I'm just going to go and have a pop, farcical refereeing decisions, all this kind of nonsense. There is accountability. There is massive accountability. So where's the gap between thinking it's okay, yes, fans need to let off steam. Yes, they should be critical of referees and players if they think it's not right. So where's the line between, letting off a bit of steam and actually venturing into, as we mentioned with Marcus Griffith, stuff that is there's no place for it at all anywhere?
Yeah, I think the starting point is there's fans are going to be passionate about the club, about the team. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being passionate. I'm a rugby league fan of the sport. I'm passionate about wanting rugby league to really want to thrive, and equally fans of clubs, etc., will feel the same. But there's a fine line between almost trying to hang people out to dry in the media and wanting them to be dropped from Super League. Accountability. But accountability comes within the department, and that comes on a Monday morning when you sit down with your coach and you'll do your review and you'll analyse the game. And sometimes then we'll be constructive. What have we done well in this game? What could we do better? And, by the nature of that, a lot of it sometimes is highlighting mistakes that have been made. But that's not to ridicule people or, slam people as people want it. It's to, next time this happens, how do we get this right and how do we become better? Because if we dropped every single one referee after one error, every single referee after one error, we wouldn't have any referees left. So it's because every referee, every player in Super League will make a mistake over the course of a season. It's human nature. It's sport. So what we try and do is and obviously the appointment of Phil Bentham now as the new head of referees, when he fully takes over, it'll be trying to make our group as full-time referees as good as we possibly can be. And with that comes accountability, but actually with it comes learning and trying to be better.
Just a couple of final questions before we run out of time. Do you think we properly understand referees and their role? One comment that infuriates me on certain referees is he's making it all about him again, which actually, if you get to know the guy, it couldn't be further from the case, because most referees want to be pretty anonymous in a game because that means you've done a good job. So when I read, his ex is making it, or Kendall gets it a lot, making it all about him, it's like, no, it's actually the opposite. So do we have a misunderstanding of actually the referees and their job? And what do you think the perception of referees is across sport, really?
Yeah, I think that's, in terms of, there's nothing better I want as a referee when I go out on a game. If I can sit back in the game and have as little interference as I possibly can, then great. There'll be times when, and I've done them games where you make very little decisions really in terms of big decisions. The players just play. There's very little challenge in terms of the rope. We don't need to step in. But equally, I've refereed other games where it can be a really difficult game. You've got lots of decisions to make around foul play. And actually, by then not stepping in or not wanting to make the game all about the referee, as some would say, you're doing that game a disservice. Sometimes stepping in and giving penalties is the way you sort the game out, is the way you try and set the standard for the game and trying to make it into a better game. So there's a lot of that. As I've said, it's easy when the players play and just let you sit back and put the whistle in your back pocket, so to speak. But all games don't always present themselves like that, sadly. And you very much react to what the game presents you with. If the game's easy, great. If it's not, then you've got to step in. But again, what's the perception? Going back to your final question, what's the perception of referees? I think most fair-minded people, see being a referee is a difficult job. I think everyone, even the most skeptical people on referees would accept being a referee is a difficult job. But in terms of, I would just ask that people, maybe if they ever confront themselves with criticism of referees, just try putting yourself in the shoes of the referee, whether that may be in the middle of a difficult decision where you've got 26 players in, pulling each other, fighting, etc. Just put yourself in that moment and ask yourself, could you do it? Could you do that job? And if the answer's no, then maybe give the referee a little bit more breathing room and a bit more understanding.
And I imagine you'd find most people wouldn't even give it a go. Final question, which I like to ask across any theme of podcast that I do, for a life lesson that you've learned from the sport. So in rugby league, in your case, that served you well in life as a whole. A lesson you've taken from our great sport that you kind of live by now and makes you the person you are.
Yeah, rugby league has given me met some fantastic people. One thing that's always stood and that I was told when I was younger, is be good to people on your way up, because you'll always meet them on the way back down. So I've always tried to, be kind to people, give them my time, check in on them. Some of them have turned into being some of my closest friends, ironically. But treat people with respect and treat people how I'd want to be treated, and that's something that's not only in rugby league, but hopefully is stood me in good stead for life.
Liam, I've really appreciated your time, your last half hour or so. Good chat all day, but I've really enjoyed that. So thanks very much.
Cheers, George. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Liam Moore on State of Mind Talks.